Perfect. They just got home. This is how this day's going, people.
It's been a great day.
Had a great day, and it's going to keep getting better.
It's going to keep getting better. That's
all
what
right.
PTSD does.
Yes, it does. All right, so here's the deal. We're here.
What time is it, by the way?
It
How
is
late
not 10 o'clock. We are 1 hour and 7 minutes late.
It's fine. That's
I apologize.
Fine. Nobody was waiting.
That's true. It's true. For those of you who are waiting with bated breath for your daily fix of PTSD parent, here we are.
Daily?
Weekly.
There. Yeah, that's better.
We have daily doses. Mm-hmm. We don't subject you to the same. My name is Chris, a.k.a. the Garden Gnome. And if you don't know why that is, then we'll fill you in later.
Yes.
With
Kelly Wilson.
Yep.
Not the Garden Gnome.
Not the Garden Gnome. Who, by the way, Kelly is a little what we like to call in fuego today. So, yeah, we're just going to see what happens.
It's just the
today.
anger. It's just the anger spouts.
Yep, I got it.
PTSD.
I got it.
It's fine.
So in case you're joining us for the first time, where were you the last two times? But Kelly and I are the PTSD parents. What does that mean?
We're not medical professionals.
We are not medical professionals, not by a long shot.
So if you need help, go get you some.
Yes, go get you some. That is our tagline. Go get you some. Oh, and there's my son behind the camera.
Bye, child.
See ya. Good talk. Kelly and I are both parents, both with PTSD diagnosis, who live every day trying to be successul at being,
trying to live our best lives.
Yeah, trying to live our best life. And we talk about the struggles of PTSD and what that means and what it looks like and, how it works. We do always say that if you find yourself in a mental health emergency, please reach out to a mental health professional because that is the key to success here. But we talk about PTSD stuff, and at some point I'm going to talk my wife into coming on here because that's going to be fun, and we're going to talk your husband.
I think you're missing some quotation mark. Like that would be fun.
Oh, that would be fun. It would be fun for me. Oh, and there's your daughter.
My husband one time said, I think I would like to come on your show and talk about my experience with your PTSD. And I was like, sounds great. I don't need to know any of that, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think it would be amazing.
Yeah. Amazing.
So what are we talking about today? Because Kelly's in charge today.
Today we're talking about Griefaversaries, which I like to shorten to Griefaversaries.
Griefaversaries, which really does not roll off the tongue.
Hashtag Griefaversaries.
It's
making a thing.
Yeah.
Today, and it's especially appropriate because today is the 1 year anniversary of, I call it the big thing that shook my world. These are kind of half quotes, I guess. Like, I'm too lazy to do the full.
Is that meeting me?
No, that's a different Griefaversary. Different type of year.
Just making sure.
All I remember is that we were at a PTA meeting and we both looked quite angry about being there.
Oh,
and I was
the first time you and I met?
The first time I saw you,
yeah.
I like him. He doesn't want to be there as much as I do.
Nope. Which is funny because we were actually both on the PTA.
Yeah, on the board.
Yeah, and neither of us wanted to be there.
Got roped in. It was bad.
Probably better for our kids if we weren't there, but I don't know.
Luckily, we didn't have to talk to kids when we were on the PTA.
Oh, that's true.
We were just doing stuff for
actually, that worked out. Actually, I was too busy making other parents mad. Yeah. Which was pretty much my role on the PTO board.
I like him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, sorry.
We need to get back on track. So Griefaversaries today is the big thing that shook my world, which was not meeting him. It's not completely my story. Like, I tell my story. The big thing that shook my world is not completely my story, so I am not open about it. I'm more private. But
except for the fact that we're not posting it on Facebook.
It is fine. It's fine. But that event led to a significant mental breakdown later in last year. So I like to acknowledge the Griefaversary that is today. And I thought, when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, it's just normal. Like before coffee, I'm kind of like,
right.
And then I started talking to people and I was like, oh, I'm angry. Yes. I'm really, really angry today. So,
and you and I had some text interactions earlier today. And it was funny because even in the text I went, yeah, today's a day.
Today's a day.
It's a thing.
So we're going to do some extra self-care. Okay. Whereas like the last couple, because this is a fairly trauma-centric time of year for me. So the last month and a half has been really depressed.
Yeah.
So now it's anger, which is okay. Refreshing? No.
Right,
I don't know how to describe
moving through the stages.
Yeah. So.
But what do you what do you do? What do you do in preparation? Because yours, so you and I have kind of different takes on this because I'm not really totally locked into Griefaversaries where you are to the point where like literally by date, like when they're coming and kind of what's going to happen. I mean for the most part. But how do you prepare for that?
This year, well, I know like between Halloween and the beginning of January, it's going to be a rough time.
Right.
But this year, I was hit with depression, like a really heavy wave of it, the end of April. And I think I have been in years past. I just didn't acknowledge it or didn't pay attention or just thought, oh, this is just a thing that won't last very long.
Right.
But my therapist actually a few weeks ago pointed out, she's like, you've had a lot of trauma happen between the months of April and June historically in your life. So like my father-in-law died during that time. I almost died. My oldest son almost died. My youngest son almost died. And these are all separate. They're not on the same day, but all separate.
It wasn't like one times. Really bad day.
No, it's all separate. And so I think of Griefaversaries.
Griefaversaries?
That's when you cook bacon. And you remember it. I think of Griefaversaries like I do of muscle memory.
Sure.
So there's this book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
By
somebody.
Bessel van der Kolk.
Hoping to God we got that right.
Yeah, hope so.
Sorry, Bessel.
Sorry, Bessel. Anyway, he's a really famous guy in trauma. And the book is about how the body responds to trauma, especially long term.
Okay.
And so even though I don't pay attention to the calendar,
right,
my body remembers throughout the year what's happened before.
Yes.
Which is fascinating.
Right.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember your question because I was going to come back around to it.
Well,
how do I prepare?
How do you, because you know they're coming, like what do you do either self-care wise or what do you do just in preparation for that time?
I have spent many, many years avoiding it. My therapist just called me the master avoider.
Oh.
I am the master avoider.
You got like a pin for that? You got like a little gold.
Can I have a medal?
Like, is there a ceremony that we all have to attend and dress up?
Do I get a graduation?
Kelly has been dubbed master.
Master avoider.
Nice.
And, which I think, I've been going to therapy for like 12 years, legit. Yes. So to still be avoiding things at a master level. Yeah.
I feel like in therapy, like, you're trying to go the other direction. like we're not trying to master avoiding things. We're actually trying to face things every day. I feel like maybe you want me to talk to your therapist.
I feel like I don't really know the point of therapy. As just a what?
Everybody's on their own journey.
Mine just kind of goes in, not quite circles, maybe spirals.
Scenic route.
Yeah. Let's go this way.
Let's go the scenic route and see what happens.
My therapist is there going, oh man, it's taking forever.
Right.
So anyway, So I've spent many years avoiding them. And just in the last, because I always wanted to be that person. I wanted to be like the person who loves Christmas and celebrates with family and does the warm fuzzies and likes wrapping gifts. No. And I am not. Yeah. I'm not that person. And I'm really sad about that, but I'm just not.
It's frustrating when you're not that person.
And you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you see, and this is, I'm going to use my words, and I know they're not the right words because the counselors that I talk to go, well, we don't really say that. And I'm like, well, maybe you don't.
Oh, no.
But I have a vision of what normal people do during certain times of the year and during events. And I want to do those things. And I have done those things for a lot of years. And what's interesting is that in the last year, I have realized I really hate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I never did before. And it wasn't that I enjoyed doing them. It was that I didn't hate doing them because those are things you're supposed to love to do.
Right.
And so you get into that space and you're like, man, like, and here's what I realized is that it throws everything else off because you're doing things that you are supposed to enjoy doing. But the feeling that you have, it's like, if this is enjoyment, like, this feels like all the other crap. So, like, okay, so maybe...
And worse, because you're exhausting your resources.
Yeah. So it's weird because we skew our own ability to feel things appropriately because for a long time we've done things, and said, oh, well, we enjoy doing this. No, we do not. Nope. As a matter of fact. Yeah. So that's really interesting. That's really interesting. The other thing I find interesting is that there are some people, and I'm not a big fan of kind of new agey woo-woo terms is what I refer to them as. I know, I'm sure somebody just got mad at me. Oh, look, we lost a viewer, so that must have been good.
I'm out.
But the term, I guess, would be like empaths, like people who feel like a lot and feel from other people. My grandfather, the anniversary of his passing was last week, or 2 weeks ago. And what's interesting is that my daughter, for 2 or 3 nights in a row, woke up crying, having dreams about him.
Wow.
And that was nuts. Because she hasn't really mentioned him, he was her great grandfather, and they had a relationship, but like she hasn't really mentioned him since he passed.
Wow.
And it was weird because she actually knew, she figured that out because she was like, yeah, she goes, I dreamt about Paul again, and I was sad that he's gone. And I was like, wow. And it wasn't until a couple days later when I realized, oh, how weird. Like, that's super weird.
That is super weird.
So, yeah. So there's, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What else? What else is on your list?
Well, instead of avoiding them,
yes,
these times of year, I do now acknowledge them. Mm-hmm. These are tough times of year. These are my grief anniversary times.
Yeah.
So, not to get stuck there, you know what I mean? Like, but no matter what I try and do or how hard I try and fight, it's going to happen. Yeah. So, the waves of depression are going to happen at this point in my life.
Right.
So, and in that acknowledgement, we've talked about compassion before, because compassion is one of, or if not the most important catalyst for healing.
Sure.
Compassion for others and compassion for yourself, which is what I'm practicing. So I like to visualize the little girl and the young woman who didn't get the care that she needed.
Yes.
And if I frame it like that, I'm a lot more compassionate towards myself.
Totally.
Because you know, I'm sure I was cute. I was like a potato with legs.
Did we call you
We're
Spud?
still really cute.
Did we call you Spud by chance? Hey, Spud.
Let's say I didn't excel in physical education. And that's when they started the president's physical fitness.
That was the day I knew I'd never go to the White House.
Yeah. That was destined.
Yeah. I mean, not that we would go now anyway. But.
Bad.
Sorry. Anywho.
So then,
yes,
I made a whole list of how I do it this time. So we're gonna go through it.
Hit me.
Then honor losses and gains, because I was thinking about it's one thing to go through the losses that we have, to go through and acknowledge them and to think about those, but to also think about the gains.
Yeah.
Like this year has been the most difficult of my life, the most challenging.
Okay.
But I am a better person in every arena.
Sure.
Like, I'm a better woman.
Sure.
Mother, wife, maybe a writer, comedian. Like I'm just better.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I could be more vulnerable, but I think I am more vulnerable. So
here's the interesting thing about vulnerability. I think, and maybe it's just me, but I think socially, I think there's a stigma around vulnerability that equates to weakness somehow.
Oh yeah.
And what's interesting is that I find more and more that the more vulnerable I become, the more resources that I have access to, the more strength and confidence that I find in myself, and the more value that I find in others. And all of those stem directly from being more vulnerable, more transparent.
You've really thought this through, because really the last really vulnerable thing I shared was just to make sure I wasn't a freak. Like,
right.
Like holler back, anybody else. Okay. It was a couple weeks ago when I went to Fred Meyer, and I had this literally 5-second interaction with this lady, and it sent me, and it was a trigger, and it was immediate. It wasn't like one of those things where you can kind of like anticipate or you feel it coming on, and you're like, well, I'm like, no, this isn't happening. It was interaction, boom, crying in the middle of Fred Meyer.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is... Okay. So run to my car, crying the rest of the day. And on Facebook, I made a post about it, and I was like, I hate this. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how this happened. I don't know what this trigger was about. Apparently I can't go out in public. I mean, I was angry and I was sad, and I just felt like desperate for anybody else to say me too. Like, I've totally been there. And then I didn't go back and read any of the comments because I was too scared.
I'll sign in later and let you know how it went.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, but that's, that's part of vulnerability too. Is like, I'm going to put this out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But even this, I mean, even the Facebook Live thing that we've done and the podcast that we've done, has been very interesting. The feedback has been fascinating. Some of it has been awkward.
Really?
Some. Just a couple.
Like,
somewhere.
You're doing a podcast.
Right.
It's all fact-based.
Right, yes.
I can hear your voice.
Well, there's some. But it's interesting because I've run in a couple of different circles. And you've been kind of on this journey for over a decade. I've been on this journey for
a month,
like a year, maybe. Not quite a month. I think it's almost a year. So maybe this is a Griefaversary or
interesting
Aware-aversary.
Aware-aversary.
Aware-aversary. But yeah, we're a year. And so my PTSD, the things that caused my PTSD, all these things were not common knowledge, amongst friend groups and that kind of stuff. And so, like everything else in my life, we didn't tread lightly into anything. Like I went, oh, I have PTSD. Oh, well, I'm sure we should probably make a podcast and broadcast this to the entire world. Because, I mean, what else would you do when you're trying to, navigate, high intensity emotional stuff? But broadcast it.
Just do it.
Let
everybody know.
Yeah, so it's been interesting.
People used to hang their underwear in their backyard to dry, so come on.
Oh, that's a good point. So, I see all the parallels that you're going for right there. But the other thing is that I talk about this a lot. I have what I refer to as a faith background. I'm a big fan of God and of the church. But in the last year, I've also seen a lot of, the last couple of years, seen a lot of the flaws in the thinking in that process. And so, and I tend to be fairly vocal about those things. And so it's interesting, when one of the things that you love the most is also one of the things that you see as the problem and broken, and try to bring, healing or restoration to that through this while that's being broken. And it's this whole jumbled mess of things that you go into. And actually, I just forgot where I was going with that, so that's pretty exciting. But
I did too.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. It happens in
my
head.
I do have an interesting thing, because yesterday I was talking about heaven with somebody.
Oh, you were talking. I just wondered how we got there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
So I don't eat carbs,
right,
just because they're bad for my body, not because of some other thing. Because I would totally eat them.
Yeah.
But
every one of them.
I had this conversation with somebody, like, I imagined heaven, and like I would enter heaven maybe, and there would be like a giant
pass or permanently trial basis.
a trial basis. But there would be like a giant carb, and I would be like, oh, I get to meet you. I'm such a big fan, and it was like this total weird vision. You can cut this part. This is weird. This doesn't fit in at all.
I see where you're going. I see how you got there.
Anyway, you remembered where you were going.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I did. This is so good. Kelly loves being on camera. It's the best. I know. It's so
I
good.
do love it.
But what we were talking about, how we got there, was the fact that the journey. I just lost it again. Holy cow. This is PTSD.
The journey.
Like this exactly is PTSD.
We're living it today.
Yeah. We're both kind of knee deep. Anyway, we'll scrap that. We'll come back to it another time.
Yeah, it'll come back to you in like 5 seconds.
Right.
Start talking about
I'm just going to start talking right over you the second it hits.
Okay.
So what's next?
Well, you talked about your circles. You run the different circles, and you were like making a big deal about how many friends you have.
No.
But, and I was like, congratulations. I don't.
Wow, that is not where that was going.
But
no, I was talking about the circles and running different circles and making people aware in certain circles, that weren't aware. And so we were talking about some of the feedback we got from the podcast and everything.
Yeah.
And in church circles, some of the feedback has been a little more interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's where all that was going. And that's where it was started.
That is fascinating.
Yes. Yeah. Huh. I love me some church folks. Don't get me wrong. But yeah. But I mean, church folks have their own struggles. They got their own issues that they're dealing with. And so I always use kind of the example, and I'm sure I'm going to make somebody mad, but church folks traditionally have kind of elected themselves, or ourselves, I'll include me in this because I've certainly done it, kind of the moral ambassadors of the universe.
Oh, I've so done that.
Right.
It was so much easier when I did that.
Right, yeah.
Everything
because you were so much higher.
White. Everything was black and white.
You were so much higher on the totem.
So much higher. No compassion whatsoever. But, wow.
Right.
A lot of security.
Yeah, a lot of security.
A lot of false security.
Yeah. And so, once people get to the point, and in fairness, just so nobody starts to panic that I know, I'm very fortunate with a lot of the folks that I know. Because there seems to be general awareness that we are actually not the moral overseers of the universe, that we are, that we are in a different spot and we're all struggling with different things. So there's a lot of community and there's a lot of compassion and there's a lot of empathy in the circles that I find myself in.
Yeah.
Which in fairness, I think I'm fortunate because I think not everybody has found that. But when you talk about PTSD and when you talk about mental illness and you talk about the church has struggled for years, and the people in the church have struggled for years knowing how to be compassionate and be empathetic to people with mental health. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's limited to the church. I just think that's the example that I'm using at this point. But you run into that, and I think there's a move for people currently to be less in judgment and more compassion right now, and really trying to understand where people are. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a move, right? And I think there's a move to not need to be heard, but to listen. Mm-hmm. And I think these are all amazing, great things. But there is definitely a shift, and I think a lot of folks are moving towards that side, where we're going to listen and we're going to understand and we're going to be empathetic and we're not going to judge, but we're going to figure out where we can come in and we can kind of fill in the gaps a little bit. And that's interesting with PTSD because, as you and I have talked about before, the diagnosis is similar across the board. The experience is very unique to the person. And so when you have a community like a church or friends or parents at the school your kids go to, whatever your community is, you will always find people who are willing to kind of step into the gap. But those people really, in fairness, have a hard job. Like I look at my wife, Margaret, and your husband, Jeff. They have a difficult job because they didn't choose to come into this, but they have chosen to stay with it, and they make choices every day to try to navigate things that are as confusing as what we're trying to navigate. And so I have
trying to understand things that we can't always explain.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my wife and I are super different, and she's very detail focused, a lot of information. And, she's told me, and I know she texts you sometimes, she's like, he's doing this, I don't know what the hell he's doing. Like, explain this to me. But she's trying to get detail so that she can understand, but I can't communicate what I'm doing because I don't understand that. And so it's frustrating for me and it's frustrating for her. But when you have folks who are willing to kind of ride that ride a little bit, that goes a really, really long way.
Right.
That is where originally I was trying to get to.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
well, even last night I went out to dinner with a friend, and we've talked about this before. Yeah. Like, she was going to sit down, and I'm like, "Can I sit there? Because I can see the door." And she was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot." Mm-hmm. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and when you can get to a place when you can have people in your life where it's not a big deal, like that makes everything better. Mm-hmm. Everything. Because I don't necessarily have to explain everything, and you don't even need to have a full understanding. You just know that that's what needs to happen, and that's a pretty good spot to be in. Because we've talked about the door thing, before, and there's a million other things like that. But when you've got people around you who get it, and they go, "Oh, sit there, I don't care."
Right.
It's a better chair, but whatever.
I'd be more comfortable.
Sure.
But sure.
Yeah. But it's fun. All right. Is there anything else on your list?
Yes.
Oh.
So you were talking about your circles of friends, and one of the things that I have done and have thought about was to tighten your circle, which sounds like a Kegel exercise to me.
Ooh, that was not where I was going.
So I used to want to be, and I don't think I'm alone in this, I used to want to be everything to everybody.
Yes.
And do all the things for all the people.
Yep.
And then I just got burnt out over and over again. So I have a really tight circle of people that I'm willing to interact with.
Sure.
And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I'm not as popular as you, but...
Shut up. Oh my God.
Anyhow.
Okay, so side note, because this is funny. We have I have told Margaret, when Margaret and I were first married, we had like this party over here, like a dinner party. And Margaret in high school, and I think I won't be in trouble for saying this. She was not the most popular girl in high school. Okay?
Well, neither was I.
We've all had this conversation. I ran in a lot of circles in high school.
She saw some of my high school pictures, and she was like,
how'd that go?
were you a 50-year-old woman? I think the word she used was dowdy. I thought that was nice. Yeah. I was like, you can say ugly. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a thing. We know. But
I'm a late bloomer.
Oh, yeah. But we got done, and she was laying on the couch in the front room, and she just looked at me and she goes, "Is this what it's like to be popular?" I said, "Yes, honey." She goes,
I don't want it. I'm tired.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. Anyway, that had nothing
Anyway.
Yeah. And I keep looking at something on your list that you're not there yet, but it's the next thing.
Gratitude.
Oh, it actually says not Kegels. Oh, perfect. Just in case there was confusion.
Kegels or Kegels? I'm not sure. Is it a Latin
Kegels?
thing?
I think it's Kegels. I don't know. But your next one is super important.
This one or this one?
That one.
The gratitude?
Yep.
I learned that from Nanea Hoffman at Sweatpants and Coffee.
Well, hey, thanks, Nanea.
Yes. As she was going through, and she did it before that too, but she was going through chemotherapy.
Okay.
And so I didn't expect to see her online, much less online listing out in pretty amazing detail what she was grateful for.
Yeah.
And that struck me the first time. And so every time she has a gratitude list, I read it. I read every word. Because, you kind of scan as you're scrolling. Mm-hmm. But I read every word, and it's rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
Like, on the worst days especially, when you try different things to feel a little bit better, like maybe I'll try meditating or something. But I'll find myself thinking about, okay, what would be on my gratitude list right now? Mm-hmm. So I give her credit for that.
Yeah, which is interesting because actually at church last week, they were talking about, like when you go to a job and get a referral letter, like what would your referral letter, say? And it was interesting because it got me thinking about the friends that I had, and I thought, you know what? It would be interesting to write a referral letter, kind of an open letter about the people that I have in my life, listing like all their qualities and why they're important and that stuff, and send it to them. Like I thought that would be actually fun.
That would make me cry.
No,
like
but I did.
Big sobs.
Big sobs.
Big old
but I thought about
cry.
But I thought about that because we don't, as a society, we don't really say thank you for the things that people. We say thank you for things that people do. Mm-hmm. We don't say thank you for who people are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just thought it would be a fun project, like once a week or whatever. And like this is what I'm thinking. Like I'm going to write one once a week, and I'm just going to send it to them in the mail, and like just thanking them for who they are, for their characters, for the things that they've built, invested into my life. And for the opportunities they've given me to grow and to be challenged and that kind of stuff. I think that would be a cool thing.
That would
be
a
cool thing to have.
Yeah.
Like just to get that out of the blue. Okay, I refer, Joe Schmo to be your friend because.
You have a friend named Joe Schmo?
No. That was an example.
Because I was going to be like, dude, that is amazing.
Have you ever seen, there's a reality show that was on a while ago called The Average Joe.
No.
Have you seen it?
No. The only reality show...
We have to find it because it's the most amazing one I've ever seen.
Well, I watch the Joel McHale show with Joel McHale, and that is my touchstone of reality TV. Yeah. All the clips you ever need about reality TV are on his show. Okay. It used to be The Soup. We took it down, but...
Yeah, The Soup was great. Is that what the Joel McHale show is? Like, it's basically a reboot of The Soup?
But it's on Netflix now.
Right. Okay, then I'll watch it if that's what it is.
He can say swears.
Okay.
I mean, they don't, he doesn't swear every other word, but every once in a while, and we'll go, oh, it's on Netflix.
If it's a reboot of The Soup, then I'm going to start watching it. Because I've seen it, and, I can't do another TV show right now. But I would do that, because I loved that show.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty awesome.
All right, good to know.
Anyway.
Okay.
So, next is cancel plans, but then make more plans, but they're different. So, stop doing all of this hamster in the wheel stuff that you don't need to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you can't, like me, go to the grocery store sometimes, you get it online, ask your friend to go, or your husband, or your wife, or whatever.
Yeah. You and my wife are going to take an adventure.
We are?
Not going to talk about it.
Oh, okay. Anyway, something's happening that I don't know, which is probably fun. While I try to cancel plans. But then schedule in stuff like laying down on the couch, on the hammock, on the porch swing. Schedule that time in.
Yeah, my wife found out you have a hammock, which means you're going to find her in your backyard.
The good thing is that I paid $30 for it, and it is huge at a garage sale.
Nice. So good.
So good.
So
but
good.
And it's one of those that you set up. It doesn't need to hang from anything. It's just its own thing.
Okay. It has its own frame.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
All right.
My husband doesn't know about it yet, but that's fine. He's going to put it together.
Now.
I have a job for you. Anyway, so you're going to need the downtime to just process through.
Yeah.
How am I feeling today?
Right.
Even. So, and then don't forget to drink water. And then I have eat Mexican food because
I saw that.
I eat Mexican food when I'm in one of these depressive places almost every day.
Okay.
And it's not like nachos or anything, but it's like, the cute little tacos.
Okay.
Don't have a lot of carbs, avocado, salsa.
I'm going to tell you right now, we don't have any sponsors for this show, but if we did, speaking of Mexican food, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a local place, if you live in Milwaukee, Oregon, on 99, there's a place called Griefaversaries. Oh my gosh.
If you live in Milwaukee.
Well, I mean, if you don't live in Milwaukee, you can still come to Griefaversaries.
Yeah, you can.
Griefaversaries, honest to God, I drove by it for years and years because it looks from the road like, nope, I'm not going in there.
But do you know they have the oddest prices?
Yeah,
they have it's not
weird.
$2.99. It's not even $3. It's $3.10.
Right.
It's $5.40.
Yeah.
What is happening?
I feel like somebody just went, yeah.
This looks good.
This looks good. That'll do it.
That's fine.
If they order all this, it's going to come up to an even number. So maybe we'll force them to order a lot that gets them to an even number. I don't know what they were thinking. But I'm telling you right now, Rigoberto's on McLaughlin is, honest to God, some of the best food I've ever had in my life. It's fantastic.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So if you want to send us some free food.
Rigoberto's.
Okay.
Yeah. And then hunker down because grieving has its own timetable. So I wish I had it's only going to take 2 weeks.
Right.
But
right.
That's why everybody's Griefaversaries are different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing about not only Griefaversaries, but just a lot of things in PTSD is that not only do they independently have their own timetable, but they uniquely, between you and me and the other 5 people or whatever in the room, all have their own unique timetable.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on your experience, depending on your exposure, depending on where you currently are, like all this stuff changes all the time, and you literally just have to ride the ride.
Just ride the ride.
There's not another way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice. That was a good. That may have been our best one for staying on topic.
On topic.
Yes. Yeah, that's not bad.
We actually did it. I hope this is actually recording.
It is.
Because it would be just like today, as today has gone already.
To get through this.
It didn't actually
and realize that it's not there. Nope. There's a big red button that says live. Cool. Anything else?
No? If you want to know more about us, go to ptsdparent.com.
Yep.
Sign up. We send emails out occasionally.
When we feel like it.
We go live. We've been like 3 weeks in a row now, but I'm pretty sure it's going to break down.
We're shooting for Fridays, but this could change up.
See. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. As always, if you do have a mental health crisis, please seek out a mental health professional because that's important. And we love and like you and want you to stick around. So yeah. All right.
All right.
That's it.
See ya.
We'll talk to you later.